Hello and welcome to Open School of Business. Today I have a pleasure to introduce you to Simone Vaillancourt. She's a CEO and founder of Terre Packaging. Also, she's a fellow of entrepreneurship at George Washington University. That's where I went to get my master's degrees, and now it's a really big hub for startups in Washington, D.C. Hi, Simone. Would you like to start with some short introduction about yourself and your business?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about my experience just with entrepreneurship in general, and also kind of from the perspective of a college student. I know that that's kind of different from some people who start their businesses out of college. So it's it's a good perspective that I've had, and I'm excited to talk about it. A little bit about me. I work for the GW Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So I do a lot of event running for them. I help them with graphics and kind of social media. And then we also run the GW New Venture Competition, which is our flagship program. And I'm actually participating this year too. So I kind of get both ends of the spectrum on that program, but it's a really great competition for student entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's exciting, especially knowing that you're doing entrepreneurship degree at the George Washington University and you're running for their competitions. And being a college student is all adds all different kind of layers of complexity and challenge. So why don't we start with how you got interested in entrepreneurship and what was your first experience?
Yeah. So the first time that I really started becoming interested in entrepreneurship was probably when I was around 13 or 14 years old, kind of fresh out of middle school, starting high school, and we were kind of starting to figure out what we wanted to do for careers. So I started thinking, first of all, that I wanted to be a journalist. And then on the side, I was working on this little business where I would like paint cards and have them printed and sold with a local business in Minneapolis where I grew up. And kind of from that experience, I realized that I really liked running my own business. And it was something that I felt like would be interesting to pursue, maybe not as a main career, but kind of a side hustle. And as I kind of progressed through that, I realized that it was really what I wanted to do with my life. So I went into college with the focus of majoring in entrepreneurship and kind of just running with that.
How exciting. So what happened to your card business? The,
I kind of let it go for college. I was partnering a lot with Minneapolis companies, and since I moved out to DC, I kind of put a put an end to it. But I'm starting a new company now, so I'm really excited to kind of get that off the ground.
right. And that's one of the things that interest me. And that's how I found out about you through seeing your company in the competition. And I think entrepreneurship is such a passion that a lot of people, they really get into it from very early in their careers or even when they're in their childhoods. And they get these different ideas, they start implementing them. I wonder what kind of experience and knowledge you got from that card company that you started, and what would you advise to parents of such curious teenagers who want to do something with their time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned a lot about just general business management, and it was really nice to do that so early on in my life. And my parents were super supportive, so I'm so thankful for them. They were kind of all on board for it. But generally, advice-wise, I would say it's really important to kind of let your kids go for that innovative mindset early on if they're expressing interest in that, just because personally it was something that I really, really had a lot of fun with. And I think that it kind of sparked the drive that I have now for entrepreneurship. And a lot of people that I know in high school and even early middle school were interested in starting their own kind of little businesses. So I think there's definitely an interest within the young kids, and I think that parents should be supportive of that for sure.
Right. And now that you are actually getting your degree in entrepreneurship, do you see certain things that you've been doing wrong or certain myths that you've been following when you were a kid entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think that I've definitely learned quite a few lessons just kind of going into university and learning the ups and downs of, I wouldn't call it real entrepreneurship, but kind of more serious entrepreneurship, looking towards an actual career in the field. I would say that something that we talk about a lot where I work at the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship is kind of lean innovation, which is focusing on the customer above all else. And that was not really something that I knew about when I first started my stationery business. So I would say that was probably the biggest lesson that I took away kind of right away off the bat at college, was just kind of listening to the customer first, and basing all of your kind of general business decisions off of what they want over what you want yourself.
That's excellent. That's I love that advice and an example. Yeah, because truly it is what the customer wants, and they also do advise that you have to really pick the idea or pick the area where you want to help a certain population, a certain customer, and you, if you're really passionate and you really care for their life or their career or some process that they're doing, and it's a challenging process right now for them, and you want to solve that problem, um, you have to pick your first ideal customer first, and then think about what you can do, what you can offer them. So that's kind of leads to your new venture and your main business right now. How did you stumble upon the idea and develop this relationship and start off this new business?
Yeah, so it all started last year. I was a freshman and I was involved in an organization called GW Women in Business. And I was on a committee with them, kind of doing outreach for this event that they do, the spring conference. And my job was to reach out to beauty companies specifically just to kind of get swag for their swag bags. And I really enjoyed kind of networking with all those companies. I really love makeup and beauty and all of that. And I kind of realized that there was a lot of plastic in the packaging, because I had wanted to kind of get swag for the swag bags that was more eco-friendly. And I realized that a lot of the companies value sustainability in their packaging, but they're not really finding the resources that they need to kind of go about implementing it. So I kind of thought, well, what if I was able to combine those two interests and kind of make packaging for beauty companies that doesn't use any plastic? And that's kind of where the idea was born. I worked a lot with our mentors at the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and they kind of helped me along in the process of developing the idea. But yeah, it really stemmed from my work with that organization and outreach to those companies.
Oh, wow, that sounds really wonderful. And do you have any partners with your company?
Yeah, I have two team members right now. Courtney is a grad student at GW, and then I've got Nina, who's a designer, and she also works a lot with compostable materials and different non-plastic materials in the beauty industry. So she lives out in New York, but together we're kind of all doing the new venture competitions. So it's been really, really fun working with them.
All right. So, what was your approach in selecting your team members?
Yeah, I really wanted people who were passionate about the environment first and foremost. I think that was the baseline for looking for team members for me. And then I have a background in social media and marketing, but I was looking for people who could be a little bit more involved in the financial side and the design side, because those two are definitely areas of expertise that you need to um, be able to launch a successful company, specifically the financials. So I really wanted a team member who could handle those and kind of work with me to create accurate projections.
That's great. And if you can brag about some of your new clients or some of the first clients, I should say,
Yeah, we're
what would
working
that
right
be?
now. Yeah, we're working with a student founded company actually from GW, Project Shea. We're going to help them kind of create their prototype. They're in the early stages of product development, and that'll kind of serve as our prototype as well. So we don't have any paying customers quite yet, but we are in the prototyping stages, and we're going to be working with them a lot to kind of go about that process.
Awesome. And it's really, I think it helps to be at the GW Office of Innovation, to have access to all these wonderful mentors and the program. And also the competition money is something that could be used for some of the new projects that you might have. So
Hmm.
I'm also a big fan of Lean, and Lean Canvas is, like a Bible for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What was the most difficult part of Lean Canvas for you to develop? Or you might
Um,
still, kind of be challenging?
yeah, I think that the most challenging part of it for me was the shift in mindset that kind of comes with adopting the lean business model. It really is changing from your own kind of perspective and your own assumptions to being able to talk to the customer and go off of what they're telling you. So we talk a lot about avoiding your key assumptions and kind of taking those into customer interviews, and really challenging what you believe. So it's been a really wild ride with my own assumptions in the industry and in my business. When some of those have been challenged and some have been confirmed by the customers, but it's just adopting that different mindset for me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure because of the Women in Business conference, you have good contacts into getting the customer to talk to you, and having those interviews. Um, and in general, what was like a challenging phase in any of these customer discovery or customer interviews? Or maybe it was something else completely um, not related to customer interviews, for example,
Yeah. Um,
finances or resources.
sure. I think that obviously COVID has been a really big challenge for every aspect of the business. Customer discovery has kind of been impacted by that because we're not able to go meet people in person. We kind
Right.
of rely, yeah, all on emails and phone calls and that type of thing to reach out to our potential customers. And it also was impacted, the business was impacted because as I was searching for team members, it was a lot tougher to reach out to people when everyone's on all different sides of the country. So it's been a journey, definitely through COVID. I wouldn't take any of it back, but I think that it was definitely a challenge being able to find and get in contact with the right people.
Right. And also the sourcing. I think that's something to talk about, completely a new topic here. How do you organize it? How to make sure, it's something new completely, right? And what was your first step and how you're progressing in that direction?
Yeah, in sourcing materials, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are working a lot with Nina, who I mentioned earlier. She's really specialized in material sourcing. But what we're doing is kind of reaching out to different material suppliers and kind of seeing if there are people in the United States or versus different countries who could supply us with the materials we need. We're looking mainly right now for bamboo and aluminum and cork and those kinds of compostable or recyclable materials. So the first steps for us have really just been reaching out to different manufacturers and different sourcing agencies to see who we can find and where they are exactly and what the cost will be.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the cheapest, you think?
As of right now, we're kind of still projecting the cheapest materials. We're thinking that bamboo is probably going to be the lower end of the spectrum, just because it grows so quickly, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy to source. But the one issue is it's going to be from overseas as of right now. So it's just kind of balancing the different costs of shipping and handling, and then the actual raw material cost.
Right. And are there any local farms that would be willing to grow bamboo?
Yeah, that's something
Yeah.
that we're looking into right now. We haven't found anyone quite yet, but we're really interested in partnering with anyone in the United States who would be willing to do that. So I know
Mhm.
that I've seen personally bamboo like around Virginia. So I'm
I
wondering if
know,
there's
that's why I'm
anything.
asking. I see it
Right.
sometimes in some people's
Yeah.
backyards. Yeah,
Yeah. So we're kind
definitely.
of looking around for anyone who would be willing to do that or who's already doing that.
Right. Yeah. So, the COVID obviously has corrected so many different things this year, has been like really messing up with lots of plans. Um, but what are your projected sort of KPIs and the goals you you set to achieve for your team for this coming year, considering all the delays and whatnot that happened last year?
Yeah, our main priority right now is definitely the new venture competition. We're kind of just in the beginning stages of that. We just progressed to round two. So the final round is going to be in April, I believe, late April. So once that's over, we'll probably be kind of continuing with prototyping, trying to figure out different materials, costs, and all that, and trying to actually make a physical product. So that's our main kind of focus and objective for this year, is kind of getting a tangible prototype. And then we may be entering a few more competitions as well.
Right. And what was like the most, is it like your first time in the competition? First year, right?
I actually did it last year.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, because you probably went through the whole process and you can say, what was the most difficult part, um, and what you would do differently this year
Yeah,
for the competition.
I think last year the most difficult part for me was being alone. I didn't have my team last year. I was kind of a single entrepreneur, kind of just going about it and
Mhm.
figuring out the ropes. Um, so that would definitely have been something that I would have wanted to change last year, was getting a team. And thankfully I have my team now.
That's great. Yes.
Yeah, it's been really, really good with them. But other than that, I think just general time management. The competition can be pretty strenuous towards the later stages once you're kind of doing the pitching and the live Q&A with judges. So just being able to balance schoolwork has been really important for me, since I am a full-time student too.
Yeah. And what is the most challenging course in your in your time at the GW so far?
Well, right now I'm in calculus. And it's
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty tough. Math has never been my strong suit, but it's definitely doable. And like I said, the time management, as long as I can allot that time out for my classes, um, it's not really an issue.
Right. And it's only going to help you in general with your project. So that's always a good side of the things. And this year, I'm assuming the competition will be mostly online, and you
Yeah,
would do all your pitching online.
yeah, it's
So that's
100%
a new
virtual.
curveball
I
that the
know, I
COVID is
know.
throwing at everyone, because that's a different different time, different scale, and a different environment. Um, and I mean, personally, I think it would be less intimidating because you would be still behind your screen in your more comfortable environment, but also the communication will be different because you wouldn't be able to really project everything about how excited you are about your venture and all the things. So it's definitely going to be pros and cons, but I'm definitely hoping that it will be more to the advantage of all the participants, and you guys can feel comfortable and win the competition. So,
Yeah, I think everyone has done a really, really good job kind of getting through the online phases and the switch from in person to online. All the participants are really, really doing a good job, and the office has also been really great with integrating the platform and being super responsive to everyone. So the transition was pretty easy, I will say.
yes, that's awesome. And, because you're from out of town, did you move back home or did you stay in Washington, D.C. area? How did that work out for you with all this pandemic situation?
Yeah, so I was home last semester, and then I just moved back here in January. So it's been a lot of moving around the country for me, um, which was a little tough school wise and work wise, but I'm happy to be back, kind of just on campus again, connecting with people again. And it feels a lot better now. It feels a lot more normal.
Right. Yeah. I think this 2021 is definitely more optimistic. People are getting their vaccines, and in general, some of the places the pandemic is getting slower. So there's a lot of positivity and optimism. And this is, I know for a fact that it helps the entrepreneurs to always think positively in their lives, even when things are going wrong. Just don't stop and go forward and do things. So, on top of that, what do you think? What else helps you in your entrepreneurial journey in terms of like your personal beliefs or some routines or whatnot?
Yeah, I think that I've definitely learned a lot in terms of time management and being able to kind of pivot. We talk a lot at the office about pivoting. It's kind of what you
Right.
just talked about a little bit, but it's just being able to kind of shift your mindset and shift your plan based on whatever curveball gets thrown at you. So COVID was definitely the ultimate pivoting test. But I would say that's probably the most valuable thing for any entrepreneur to know is how to pivot based on advice you get from your customers or based on kind of tough situations that you get put in. Just being able to think positively about it and shift your mindset in a way that allows you to come out the other side unscathed, I guess.
Yes, I definitely was. I did so many interviews about how people, the business people, were pivoting during COVID-19 pandemic, and all of my guests have very interesting different perspectives. And one of them I really definitely liked is that uncertainty has always been there. That was Sharon. Just last week, we talked about it, and she was saying, how uncertainty is always there, and just this pandemic or not, it's just a little bit more dramatic because it's everywhere, and people affected health wise, not only economy wise. So, but still, the environment for business and entrepreneurship is pretty much the same, and that means everyone should just think into more different options what they can do. So it's definitely something. And there were industries that were booming this year, for example, the vitamins and the general wellness and
Mhm.
supplements. So I was thinking that could be another idea for packaging.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they do need a
definitely.
lot, and I'm sure they're just very busy just shipping out those vitamins everywhere. Uh,
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
they're wasting, definitely creating lots of plastic waste, that's for sure.
Hmm.
So it's one of the ideas, just to chat.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was, I'm really happy about this interview because you're probably one of the youngest entrepreneurs and business people that I've interviewed so far. And I'm really excited about that because that doesn't make your business any more less legitimate than any others, which is actually makes it more experience because you've already had the experience that you've done before, and you're studying entrepreneurship for your college degree, which makes it even more. You're doing things on actual lean methodology and all the cutting edge Silicon Valley methodologies that there is, because I know GW is really following all these new trends. So I'm really happy to see you succeed and win the competitions. And most of all, I want for you to get those paying customers. And definitely, in a year or so, I would like to invite you back to the podcast and see where you are. Maybe some new ideas, some new ventures. So I know because a lot of entrepreneurs are into different multiple things that they do, but definitely sticking to one is also a very good strategy.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Hopefully someday I'm able to kind of start a few. That's kind of the dream.
right.
Serial entrepreneurship. It sounds super cool to me. So
All right, that's true. That's true. And just as the last question, I know we spent almost an hour. I'm wondering, like, what are your favorite books that inspired you? What are the things that you love reading for entrepreneurship?
yeah, I've got one book that I always recommend to everybody. It's about the lean innovation method. It's called Talking to Humans, and it's by Frank Primalvolsky and I think it's Gift Constable. But the book is really, really good. It gives you a bunch of examples about kind of how to go about the customer discovery process. And how to kind of set yourself apart in your interviews with different customers. So that would definitely be the top book that I would recommend to anybody who's starting a business. Doesn't matter what field, because customer discovery is always a part of that process, no matter what you're doing. And I
Yes.
think, yeah, I think they also have another book that came out too called Testing with Humans, which is more about prototyping. So that set of books would definitely be my top recommendation.
All right. Thank you. I think that that's really cool. I love that the testing with the customers, because a lot of the entrepreneurs who are already at that stage, like yourself, for example, you've already done a lot of the talking and finding out. But usually, I also have one of my favorite books for customers is the Mom Test, and that one is just great, especially when you're starting out. And obviously, you're a bit past that stage, but maybe you would also appreciate that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I've heard of that one. It's definitely a good one.
yeah, and since you're actually talking to your customers to organize the conference, you can always use the mom test there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're talking to them about something else, and it's just casually asking a few questions about their business. And it's just a great approach. I really love that author. Um, so I think that we covered pretty much a lot of it, but if you were to sum up your whole journey as an entrepreneur into 30 seconds, what would you say?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, I would say just go for it. If you want to start your own business, um, even if you succeed or fail, it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of the mindset that you can put yourself into and the experience that you're going to get is so, so valuable for any career, really. And of course, listen to your customers. They're always coming first before your assumptions. It's really important to recognize the assumptions that you have and kind of challenge them at all times, and being able to pivot when they're challenged based on what your customers tell you. But yeah, I think that just in general, go for it and it'll be worth it no matter what happens.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Simone. And I wish you good luck in your competition.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.